Hi everyone, this is Marianne and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you my process for making my planner pages for September 2018. I use Adobe InDesign for making all of my planner pages. I have always used InDesign for these since I started making my own planner pages in 2013. And the design of my planner pages has evolved over time, but the principle remains the same. I do have a video on my channel about the evolution of my planner pages, and I will leave a link for you in the description box. Another related video you might find interesting is the one I made about the things that make my planning system easy to sustain, which is also known as Planner Peace, and also two videos on how I plan. One is from 2015 and there is an updated version from 2017. I also have a little tutorial on how to make simple planner pages using Adobe InDesign. I will leave the links for all of these videos in the description box for you. So anyway, here we are creating my September 2018 planner pages on InDesign. As you can see, everything is already in place. Let me show you the different layer groups that I have. I have named them all because there are so many and I use these same layers and layer groups every single time, so it just makes sense to always keep them organized. Let me just hide the layers and then reveal them to you one by one. Here we have the grid right here on this layer, and then we have the guides for the side reminder tabs right here on top of the layer for the grid. And then on top of that, we have some copyright information and links on the inner margins. And then we have the boxes on the left page and then the boxes on the right page. And then on a different layer, we have all of the icons for the left page and then the icons for the right page. And as I'm looking at this layer by layer, I have noticed only now that some of the icons that are on the left page have been accidentally grouped with the icons for the right page, but they are placed properly on the left page. This takes only a few minutes to fix, but the entire file has already been done, and so it means that this minor layer management mistake is on all of the pages, and it won't matter on the final printed pages anyway, so I decided to just leave it for now and just make the corrections next time when I make my planner pages for October 2018. The next layer is the HyperText layer. I used to be on the HyperText Extra, but now I am on the HyperText 7. And then we have the main header, which has the date. That is the boldest looking part of the entire spread because it's the most critical information that I must look at every single time to make sure I'm writing on or reading the information for the correct day. And then there is also the optional layer that has the birthdays and milestones and holidays and religious observances. On days when there is nothing, I simply hide that layer for that spread. And there you have it. Those are all of my layers and layer groups. These are everything that goes into all of my planner pages. And now I just want to give you a closer look at the elements. Here is a close-up of the grid, which I made myself on InDesign. And also, every single icon on these pages are made of vectors. These are not images, these are not JPEGs, these are paths. And if you have a colored printer, you can easily change the colors of each element like so. The hypertext is also made of paths. As you can see right here, the hypertext is not a JPEG because you can see that all of the paths are defined by the markers. I certainly had a lot of fun learning how to create and edit these icons, but sometimes I still get some icons from flaticon.com, which I will share down below. For the paper, I used this Midori MD paper pad in the A4 size. I have talked about this paper in a previous video, and I will leave a link to that in the description box. I plan to cut down this A4 paper in half to make A5 and then print personal sized pages with crop marks onto the A5 sheets and then cut the paper further down to size using the crop marks as cutting guide. My printer can print on personal sized paper, but I will explain later why I prefer to print on A5 and then cut the sheet down to personal size afterwards. I measured the paper to make sure that it is exactly A4 sized and saw that there is a teeny tiny bit of extra length to it, but when I cut down a sample sheet in half, the extra smidgen didn't really matter that much at all. So the InDesign file has 70 pages in 36 spreads, so that means I only needed 18 sheets of this A4 sized paper to make all 70 pages. I tore off the 18 sheets that I needed, and then when I was done with that, I trimmed each sheet in half with a paper trimmer. You can see that I have already marked a spot in the paper trimmer where the 148 millimeter mark is, which is the width of A5. At this point, I did notice that the edges that I just cut were not as sharp, so I decided to change the rotary blade on my Fiskars paper trimmer. I do use this paper trimmer a lot, and in one of my previous videos where I made a doodle planner, I used this trimmer to cut down a thick sheet of plastic, and it did work at that time, but I think that dulled the blade a little bit. When I ordered this paper trimmer, I also ordered a pack of replacement rotary blades with it, and I'm glad I did. It's very easy to replace the blade too. The blade that came with the paper trimmer is blue and the replacement blade is orange. I simply popped in the replacement blade and that was it. So easy. I have talked about this paper trimmer before in a previous video and I will link it down below for you. And then I went ahead and printed the file onto the A5 sheets that I just cut. But first I printed a sample sheet to make sure that the printing is aligned because this is my first time to manually print back-to-back pages on this printer and not use the duplex printing feature, which this has, but it only works on A4 and US letter and not on any other size. I first printed out the first page and then put the same paper back in so that I can print the next page onto the flip side of it. And as you can see, the crop marks are not 100% aligned, but that's okay. These home printers can't be that completely exact, but this will work for my purposes. And then I printed the rest of the pages. I printed out all of the odd pages first, and then took the same stack, placed it back inside the printer, and then printed the even pages. And here we are with all of the printed pages. I checked that all of the pages are in the proper order and that I was not missing a page or a sheet. And then after that, it was time to cut. I used the crop marks to align the paper to where the cut should be made, and then I simply dragged the blade over it, and then I simply repeated the same process for all of the four sides. It was a little time consuming to do this to each sheet of A5 paper, but it is at this point in my process that I pop on a planner related YouTube video and listen and watch while doing this. And then it becomes quite enjoyable. I didn't even notice that my earphone cables were already in the frame. And now finally we're done with the cutting of the A5 sheets onto personal size. Let me show you now why I prefer not to print directly on personal sized paper and instead print personal sized sheets on A5 paper and then cut the printed sheet down to personal size. The reason for this is because my printer cannot print borderless pages, which means that anything on the page that is too close to the edge will not be printed anymore, which means that these guides for the side reminder tabs would not have been printed had I done the printing directly on personal-sized pages. When I used to print directly on personal-sized paper, like right here on my pages for August 2018, the printing was cut off near the edge. I could still see the guides, and the guides were able to fulfill their purpose, but for a change, I would still like to be able to see the full guides. The next step in this entire process would be, of course, hole punching. I'm still using this Covey hole puncher for the compact, which is the same hole configuration as the personal-sized binders of Filofax and KikK and Vanderspec and a few other binder brands. I purchased this hole puncher in 2013 at the Covey store in Ayala Avenue, Makati, right here in Metro Manila. They have a really nice store with all of the current binders and inserts and accessories on display. I will leave their address and phone number down below. I also went ahead and cut the weekly reminders that I always tip into the right edge of each Sunday spread. I have talked about these tip-ins in a previous video, and I will link that video in the description box for you in case you're interested to watch it. I prepare these sheets a little differently. First of all, I cut them down to personal size using the crop marks the same way I cut the daily pages. But afterwards, I score these sheets so I can fold them back and use them as foldouts. I score them using the same paper trimmer, but instead of using the rotary blade, which is only for cutting, I use a retractable mechanical pencil with the point retracted. This is the Pilot Birdie mechanical pencil. And finally, now that everything is cut, hole punched, scored, and folded, we can bring everything together. I'm still on this planner, the gray Kiki K, which is a swap with JM Mansai Lee. I have compared this binder with the Kiki K Ocean in a previous video, which I will link down below for you. I just pop in the daily pages, and by the way, those are the side reminder tabs that you can see there in that semi-clear pouch. The last step in the process is the pasting of the weekly tip-in sheets to the right edge of every Sunday spread. I use the Elmer's glue stick and then I just paste it like so. And then I simply do the same thing for the rest of them. We are pretty much done already, but I just want to show myself pasting in a side reminder tab on the more visible guides on these pages that we have just made. I keep the side reminder tabs here in the semi-clear pouch. I have showed how I made these pouches in my video about my 2018 planner setup, and I will link that down below. I choose a relevant tab, cut it down to the proper size, glue it onto the proper place in the planner using the more visible guides, and then that's it. I make my planner pages using this process every month so I can make the necessary tweaks to the layout as needed. Usually the tweaks are minor, but it makes a lot of difference anyway in my efficiency in using the planner pages. I also make tweaks in the middle of the month, and I showed that in a previous video, which I will link in the description box for you. And that is my video for you today. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, bye!